Whether or not you believe in climate change, the temperatures are getting so hot in summertime in some places that you need to consider hot weather as you plan your full-time travels. So on today's episode, let's explore some considerations to make as you plan your journey. Welcome to the How to Travel Full-Time podcast. I'm your host, Heather Markell. If you're dreaming of full-time travel or moving abroad, but stuck at the emotional, financial, and logistical challenges, this podcast is for you. I'll help you trade overwhelm for information that gets you from down and stuck to up and going. You can dream about the travel lifestyle, or you can live the travel lifestyle. If you're ready to live it, then let's jump in together. Last summer, I was in Turkey in August. It was hot and humid, but for some reason, I didn't think it was that much worse than, say, summer in New York City. So my first week there, in the middle of breakfast, it was really strange. I got very lightheaded, and I ended up spending a couple of hours working my way through 5 bottles of water, practically lying down on this outdoor couch with a cat, that part was nice, and until I could finally get up and get to a pharmacy for some electrolytes. So then I figured I was over it. I moved about my journey, and when I got to Izmir, there was a wildfire nearby, so just breathing in the air meant that my asthma got triggered by the ash in the air. And then I went to Ephesus and Pamukkale, and they were really hot, like really, really hot. I actually had to sit in the shade and guzzle water while I was there, but again, I just figured it's just hot. I'm drinking, I'm fine. Making a longer story short, when I finally got back to Istanbul for the final few days that I would spend in Turkey, I had big plans. Unfortunately, they were sidetracked by my almost passing out from the heat. So I checked into the hospital and I was kept overnight for dehydration. So now I'm kind of obsessed about taking care of myself in hot weather. So I thought I would dedicate this episode to some tips for those of you who, like me, don't do well in hot, humid weather and worry about places like, say, Europe in the summer where 100-degree weather, or for those of you on Celsius, in the 40s, is becoming more commonplace. So here are a few tips. First, well, you could consider not going to destinations while they're more likely to be that hot and humid. Sounds obvious, I know, but simply avoiding travel to places during their hot, humid summertime is one way to avoid it. But being realistic, there are some places in the world that are just hot all the time, or maybe you don't want to avoid them. So if you're in a place where it's hot all the time, or you've decided to travel somewhere despite the high heat levels, here are some ways to handle it. Bring electrolytes. I travel with Clif Bloks. They're chewable, gummy electrolytes. You can also get powder ones, and you just add the powder to water, or you have those little dissolvable tablets, or you could get something like Gatorade. Electrolytes can help a lot with ensuring that you don't get dehydrated while you're in the heat. Definitely do your research on how much, the percentage of electrolytes in them. Is the thing about the chewable ones. They make a big difference really fast, whereas the ones that you dissolve in water seem to just have less in them. Clif Bloks also, if you get them, I found that they're a little bit harder to come across now. I don't always trust getting them on Amazon because I don't know how old they are. They're also expensive. So I do know that REI, that outdoor gear store online, they have them, and they're like $3 each or something for a pack of, I I think there's 8 or 10 little chewable squares in each package. So I would just get a bunch of those and stock up and bring them with you. Another thing you can do is just stay indoors during the hottest periods of the day. So I was in Nantes in France when it was 42 degrees Celsius, basically over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So being outside wasn't just hot and humid, but when a breeze would blow by, it was a hot breeze. It was like it's like I'm already hot as heck, and now you've turned the heater on and you're blasting it at me. It was bad. I said no thanks and jumped on a tram back to the place I was staying. So sometimes you just need to acknowledge your limits and honor them and get out of the heat. You could also take taxis or public transport. Look, I prefer walking when I go to a new destination. I love to be able to get to know my surroundings on foot and see every little nook and cranny. But in the heat, sometimes I just can't. And part of being older and taking care of yourself is about not being a hero all the time. This is one of the reasons I teach people to create specific budgets for full-time travel, because there are going to be times that you need to spend a little more to, say, take a taxi. Hopefully it has some AC. Or maybe you're going to go get a tram or a subway with AC instead of walking. It's just not worth making yourself sick to save a few dollars. A great thing to travel with is a neck cooler. So this is such a good way to stay cool outside. It's sort of like a slim fabric wrap, and on the inside there are these beads. And when you soak the fabric in water, ideally cool, cold water, the beads soak up the water and inflate. And then you place it around your neck and you go outside in the heat and it has an immediate cooling effect. Now, Amazon does sell them. If you can't find them elsewhere, you can just Google neck cooler and you should be able to find one. In addition to the neck cooler, or instead of it, you may want to travel with a personal fan. So something small, handheld, ideally battery operated, or it's chargeable. They have ones that go around your neck or ones that are handheld, and they can be a huge relief while you travel in the heat. You can usually find them at, say, small stores that sell electronics, or often if you're like on a street market or somewhere, a little like souvenir shop, they'll often have them. Of course, unfortunately, those might not be the best quality, so it can be worthwhile to get a better one before you start your travels and just keep it with you as you go. Always monitor your hydration. So even if you drink all, 64 ounces a day of water that we're supposed to drink, if you're thirsty, keep drinking. I have a lot of apps on my phone that help me track how much water I've had to drink. But what really matters is your thirst. And frankly, I'll be honest, I'm not always diligent about, in the moment, marking down the water that I drank. So that's why I think it's more important to just pay attention to if your tongue feels dry, you can feel thirsty, you need to drink more water. Getting gross, sorry, but like if your urine is yellow and not clear, that's also an indication that you haven't had enough water for the day. So obviously, depending where in the world you are, you may have to stock up on extra bottled water. And that may be expensive, but trust me, it's cheaper than a hospital bill for dehydration. And I speak from experience. Avoid alcohol. Hey, I love me some wine when I travel. That's like one of the great reasons, in fact, that there are several places in the world that I've gone specifically for the wine. Unfortunately, drinking can add to dehydration, and it can cause headaches that you do not need in hot weather. So if you're able to avoid it, or just stick to one glass, it will help a lot. Another tip is to mind your caffeine. So look, even in the heat, I need coffee, and it's a diuretic. I have never had more than like one tea and one coffee a day, so that's not so bad. I know sometimes people are drinking cups and cups a day. Obviously, also something like green tea is better than coffee. But personally, I crave my coffee every day. I kind of can't live without it. I mean, I guess I could, but I prefer not to. So in hot weather, I either will sit in an over air conditioned environment if I'm going to drink it hot, or I get iced coffee. And again, depending where in the world you are and how they're making that ice and what their local water's like, that may or may not be an option. But either way, I drink the coffee with loads of water. A final consideration is to think about eating the right foods. So according to my ear, nose, and throat doctor, some great ways to battle dehydration is with food and drink. So you could eat ramen soup, right? The salty content in the broth and often salty soups can be really helpful. Or you could eat pretzels that are with salt. So you want that salt combined with the water allows your body to retain some of that water. Coconut water is another great resource. Also melons, like honeydew or watermelon. Even gazpacho, cucumber, and yogurt can help with dehydration. At the end of the day, no one knows your body like you do. So pay attention to things like feeling lightheaded, sweating a lot, or dizziness. Take it easy, and if you feel any of those signs, find the fastest way to air conditioning, liquids, and relaxing. Hope you found some helpful tips in this episode and enjoy your travels. Thanks so much for listening to the How to Travel Full-Time podcast. If you loved it, please leave a review and let us know. Make sure to subscribe to get the latest episodes. Check out the show notes for important resources related to this episode, and come visit us at travellifestylecoach.com to learn more great information. If you're ready to get started with the lifestyle, go to moneyfortravelbootcamp.com, where you can learn all the strategies to afford this amazing lifestyle. Talk to you next week.